So one thing we're doing when we sit in meditation, and I just want you to begin right away, is we're creating new patterns in our nervous system. We're also trying, or maybe trying is too strong of a word, we're slowly shifting into old patterns, but we're either healing them or we're going into old safe patterns, maybe that we've lost. And so just as you're sitting here, get a sense of a old pattern in your nervous system that is safe. Now, whenever we bring up the word safe, there's going to be danger nearby. So you have to notice your nervous system and how it reacts to these words. But we're sitting here and we're immediately coming into the present moment. But I'm asking you to be present with the sense or idea or memory of another time in your nervous system. I know this is a weird way to put it, but when when you were a child, when you were, I know all the people on the call today very well, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you have to sort of be wise in how we do this, but it's a very useful way to sit. And so someone on the call that I know well might go to listening to music or listening to their favorite, being at a concert or something. For me, I've gotten sick recently. I can just go back a little bit before that and I remember a certain kind of physical freedom when I was, I was getting too close to sea lions on the beach. It's not that we're running away from anything. We want to notice that there's still a pattern in our nervous system that represents this. At the very least, it's a pattern in our brain where we have an idea, right? You can picture it, and that's how you start. So there's this sort of caricature of a kind of therapy where you go to your safe place, right? Now, what we have in meditation, the skill we've built up is this concentration ability. And so find your resource. For most of you, we're going to be using the breath. Really feel the present moment body. I've already dinged or put your brain in a mode of operating, maybe searching around a little bit for this other operating system related to a safe pattern in your nervous system. But don't worry about it too much. It's sort of there. Maybe you found it. We're just going to stay with the body for a bit. Let's just do the tip of the nose. And one reason we do the breath and one reason we do things like the tip of the nose or we find a resource is that these are parts of our body that are outside some of our problematic patterns. And if we just stay with them, then we are living outside that pattern. We are weakening the pattern's hold on us. Every time we run through a pattern, we deepen it a little bit, very little bit. Every time we intentionally stay out of a pattern, we start to deepen other patterns. So this is the power of just simple, basic breath meditation. And the stronger our concentration gets, the more effective it is at this one particular part of the practice. And so we want to start. Can I follow a breath from beginning to end? Can I follow it not just with my idea of it, but with this sensation? So can I actually feel the movement of the breath in my body, that is in my nostrils today, and the tip of my nose? You may notice one nostril more open than another. You may notice that it's cooler on the in-breath or hotter on the out-breath or something like that. Makes sense, right? The air goes into your very hot body and then comes out. I find it useful to actually focus on the tip of the nose as well, which will have less sensation. And so in some sense will be even more peaceful. It's a little harder to focus on because it has less sensation. So it's a little harder to your mind gets less interested. So you have to sort of use a little effort. So we're using effort right now. The practice is to go towards effortless effort. It's really important to remember that effortless effort includes effort, right? So it's not like we're getting rid of effort in our meditation. It just is this paradoxical kind of effort that comes from a different place. Notice how each breath is different. So that requires even more attention because there'll be a pattern to your breath. There'll be a pattern to the sensation as the in-breath comes in, as it goes out, as the tip of the nose contracts a little bit. But it'll be different the next breath, and you have to pay really close attention to notice how it's different. In fact, note it, a little good way to get really interested is every time you breathe in, notice something different in the breath, in the nostril. Now you can do the same thing by focusing out visually. Focus on a candle or a tree or a road or whatever is in front of you. You could focus on a feeling in any other part of the body. You could focus on sound. Anything that sort of is right now outside of your normal patterns. How often do you just sit and focus on a tree? Or it's inside of really positive or patterns that really feel good. So meditation will create new patterns that you'll sort of fall into because you've been practicing for a while. We're not running away from the old patterns, but we want to be able to strengthen and get familiar with and have access to more peaceful patterns in our body. And it really is just like shifting lanes. When you're driving on a highway and sometimes the highway splits in two and you're just, highway, you get into kind of a cruising mode. If you take the wrong lane, you might end up going hundreds of miles the wrong direction or into a whole new exciting direction. The same thing here. If you shift yourself into a new pattern, a different life unfolds. And we do this, but we have to really shift. We have to hit that shifter on the train tracks to mix metaphors. So we have to get really interested in the new pattern in a way of interacting, and that's getting into the present moment, really feeling what's happening. And you want to allow, so if you're focusing on the nostrils still, you're going to notice as your concentration gets stronger that the object of concentration almost gets bigger in your awareness. It starts to crowd out other things. Eventually, it will become your whole awareness at a very deep level of concentration. You will see you'll have nothing but the breath in the nostrils because you've stayed with it so long with such steadiness and with such involvement. And that's just a matter of degree. You don't need to force it. It's sort of a natural consequence, but just notice if it does get a little bigger, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Just notice, oh yeah, it's a little, there's more width to my experience of the nostril breath, and everything else is getting a little dimmer, a little less present. So I'm going to give you 10 breaths without talking here. So when we get distracted, which will be common, we're getting pulled into other patterning. There's the basic pattern of just having an attention which is alert and bouncing around. So that's just a very basic pattern. There's nothing intrinsically wrong about it, but we'd like to have an alternative pattern, which is I'm calm and still and don't need to modern my mo, mo, monitor my environment so closely. But you also might notice, oh, I just went into memories, or I went into planning, or I went into fear, or I went into physical pain in my body, or I went into emotional stuff in my body. And those are just other patterns that usually are going to be ones that are relatively common. That's why they're pulling us out of the nostril. There's nothing wrong with those things, at least not from the meditation perspective. And so we can just notice, oh yeah, other pattern, you know. In Buddhism, they'd say, planning or memory, or you could label it that way, or you could label it in our way of practicing, feel, see, or hear. Or you could just notice that it's a different pattern. You might have specific personality things you can start to notice. Oh, man, when I'm meditating, I'm constantly going to that thing that happened to me, or bad things that people have done, or whatever. Or I'm constantly planning for tomorrow, or I'm constantly picturing some nightmare scenario or some dream scenario. It just tells you a little about your own patterns. This is a way to get some personal insight. But don't need to sit there and think about it. You just notice and then you come back to the breath. Now, there's a constant practice here, which is very subtle, but most of us will start by focusing on our idea of the breath in the nostrils. It will be related to a sensation, but we'll just keep being focused on the picture of it or the idea of it. And this idea will remain there for quite a long while until you really get involved in just the sensations of the feeling. Again, there's nothing really wrong with it, but what we can do is keep practicing deepening into the sensations by really feeling, really noticing change, really noticing difference, moment by moment by micro moment. When we get really, really good at meditation, at concentration, we can notice dozens of things a second. And every time we notice something, we're deepening that pattern. And so if you can start noticing dozens of things a second, that's a dozens of pattern deepenings. When we start this, we can notice one thing every 5 seconds, and then we just try to we slowly work towards more better concentration. And this is a simple thing. It will get stronger. Make sure you separate the effort to attend to the breath out from any effort you're doing to control the breath. See, if at a certain point, you'll really notice the breath is just happening on its own. You don't need to do anything, but just stay there, not run away. At a certain point, you'll disappear. There'll just be the breath. There'll just be the breath happening. That, of course, is our deepest pattern, is our self, the idea of the self, which we bring to every experience, or almost every experience. But there's not a lot of self in the breath and the nostrils. There's just not a lot of stories about Chris Kelly or whomever you are. And if you look close enough, you'll see there's no story there. There's no self. For most people, to a certain point, the breath will get more and more relaxed. It'll get longer. It'll get deeper. So relaxed means there'll be less tension in the face, throat, shoulders, chest, belly. Deeper means it'll be going more healthily into the diaphragmatic breath, into the belly. Longer, of course, just means there'll be a longer exhale in particular, and a longer pause in between. None of this needs to be forced. We just notice and allow. And this is also requires extra concentration. So, for instance, when the out breath ends and there's a long pause in between, there's not a lot happening in the nostrils. So you have to make a little extra effort to stay there and just notice the little changes that are still happening in the tip of the nose, even when no breath is coming in or out. A little pulsing or tingling or heat or a shape or a numbness. So the powerful thing you can now do, if you want, you can just stay with the breath. And it requires sort of getting into this more peaceful concentration state. And if you want to just stay with that and keep deepening, that's fine. Or if you've just been very distracted all day, you can just keep working on that. Or we can now pull in we're sort of dropping, it's like we're dropping it into the pond of our awareness. Drop in this memory of a different time, a time of safety, a time of maybe fun or pleasure or creativity, whatever you want. Or it can be an imagined time. If your life has been really difficult and it's just hard to disentangle the good times from everything else, you can just come up with an imagination. Anything you want, really, you can drop in. You can also drop in negative things and work with them after you develop some facility with this. But this is a way of just dropping in this nervous, and we're going to now focus on that. So if it's a memory, it's ideal to just start really getting into the sensory details of that memory, because that's where the nervous system pattern lives. Your body still remembers this time. And so, but you just start with the mind. You're just like, oh yeah, it smelled like this. It was these colors. It was this light. It was these sounds. It was this feeling in my body. And don't worry if it's pale or it doesn't make you feel any particular way right away. There's not really a goal here other than connecting with an old but safe pattern in our nervous system and just adding it to what we've already been doing. And most people will find there's a hook detail. That is, there's some sensory hook. It's usually a picture that just gets you into the nervous system pattern. So it may be the feeling or look of yourself laughing, or the sound of you laughing, or sound of someone else laughing, or the sound of the waves, or something there's a detail that it's almost like the database entry address for this nervous system pattern. And it's okay when you drop this in that there may be some sadness or fear or other things that are sort of a consequence of your body thinking about something positive. That's very useful information about other patterns in your body. Patterns to see something safe as scary or something sad or something lost. And we're not going to get rid of those, but we're going to use our concentration ability to keep going back to the detail that hooks us into the old pattern, not our present reaction to it. So we're just using this new memory in the same way we were using the breath in the nostrils. Some people this will be very easy, some people it will be very hard. It's just a different concentration task. And sometimes you'll have to practice this on your own and feel around for the easiest memory or idea and work with that for a while. And maybe today you haven't found it yet. And I repeat, if you notice resistance arising in your mind, in your body, in your emotions, that's fine. You let that be there, but you use your concentration ability to keep going back to the non-resistant part, to the sensory detail that brings you into the memory. Eventually, that will get bigger, just like the nostrils get bigger. Eventually, that detail and the memory, the safe memory will get bigger in your awareness, and you can then just sit in this old nervous system pattern. Once you've found a detail that really is the one that hooks you in, stay with that for a while. You don't have to explore all the other details. Just stay with the one that most strongly magnetizes you to this way of being and let the other stuff sort of happen naturally. So, for instance, well, I won't tell you. I'll talk about this after, but then just like before, when resistance comes up, we just notice the distraction. We label it, how it feels or seems, hears, however you want to label it, memory, resistance, emotion, and then you come back to the sensory details. You can also keep some awareness on that breath in the nostril just to keep you in the present and connect the present with the memory or idea. So we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that you finish up without with the least challenging thing that's available right now. So if the memory stuff is causing more distraction, more challenge than safety, go back to the breath or whatever resource you were using. If it's not, then just stay with it. And there's incredible things to explore here, and you're probably just getting a taste of it. What we can do here is we can use our concentration ability, starting with the breath, to kind of time travel. And although that is somewhat metaphorical, you really can have full three-dimensional, multi-sensory experiences of the past in this way. They reside in your body. We can heal difficult things this way, but we're not going to start there. You want to build up a safe practice and to be able to reconnect with patterns in our nervous system that could be useful to us now. And of course, they're going to be a little out of alignment with our present day life, but they can be integrated by going and really giving them attention. Go back again, just like you were going back to the nostrils, go back to that sensory detail that hooks you into the memory or idea. It could be an imagined visual, a sound, something you hear. We don't talk about smell as much here, but smell is a very powerful inducer of old nervous system patterns, of old memories. Okay, so we're about to disconnect here. Just say to this sort of old nervous system pattern, welcome, welcome. You're welcome to come with me through my day. You're welcome to revisit me whenever you want. I'm going to go give attention to some other things now, but that doesn't mean that I am not interested in hearing more from you. I love you. I love this time in my body. And you are now sort of called into support for me going forward. Take one last check in with the nostrils. Really, really, really notice what it feels like. And when you're ready, you come out of your practice and you start to move around in your present day body and open your eyes. Always useful just to check in with how you feel now as you open your eyes. Doesn't matter if you feel better or worse. It's just useful to notice that will keep informing your practice.